Greetings, I am Rosalind Parks, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of National Network View News. In today's broadcast, Sister Sherrie Muhammad takes us back to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's book, Torchlight for America, to find solutions to America's flawed education system that we must implement in our developing systems in order to succeed. We are joined by Brother Brian E. Muhammad to celebrate the enstoolment of Abdul Akbar Muhammad as a development chief in Ghana, West Africa. Then, Dr. Akili Muhammad brings information on caring for ourselves and warding off disease in our homes before seeing the doctor. Before we delve into today's news, let's do a recap of the Final Call cover report.
Greetings from National Network View. Top Final Call News reports the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will be addressing the world Sunday, February 27th from Mosque Mariam in Chicago. The Savior's Day 2022 message entitled The Swan Song will be broadcast live on NOI.org at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time and simulcast right here on Final Call Radio. Don't miss the crowning event of Black History Month. This week's Final Call news special on COVID-19 and the U.S. policy of depopulation features an article by the Nation of Islam Research Group entitled Pandemic Policies Designed to Destroy Our Health Are Far More Deadly Than COVID-19, as they continue to ruthlessly promote a vaccine that is an absolute failure. In the depopulation briefs, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is quoted, "As I live, my desire is to destroy the so-called medical profession, because it is not a profession of healing, it is a profession of drugs." The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan warns the Black community against taking the COVID-19 vaccine with the U.S. government's treacherous history of experimentation, medications, and vaccines. For more information, facts, and history to why we should not take their vaccine, along with guidance on how to protect yourself, family, and community, visit noi.org/vaccines. This week's Final Call News cover story headline focuses on the lawsuit filed by Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, as the firing of the Black coach unmasks racism and hypocrisy that persist in the National Football League, limiting chances for Black coaches and executives. This FCN Volume Number 18 edition center page article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is entitled Divine Warning by the Time of God's Judgment. The article contains excerpts from Part 10 of his 52 weeks lecture series, The Time and What Must Be Done. To read more, please subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and continue to tune in to Final Call Radio.
Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. When we return, Sister Sherrie Muhammad will highlight some of the flaws with the education system we are separating from and bring up the solutions from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's book, Torchlight for America. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to NNVnews.com/donate.
Individually, we are poor when you compare us with white society in America. We are poor. Collectively, we are richer than all the nations in the world with the exception of 9. That's power right there if we know how to prove it. We begin the process of building a greater economic base, and at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. We don't have to argue with anybody. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. we come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNVnews, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's book, Torchlight for America, discusses the purposes for education and how education and the knowledge of self can bring students closer to fulfilling their purpose for being. Joining us today is NNV education contributor, Sister Sherrie Muhammad, founder and executive director of Asiatic Minds Online School. Greetings, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rosalind.
Wa alaikum salam. Sister Sherrie, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's book, Torchlight for America, discusses education. What does he say is the purpose of education?
Well, within Torchlight for America, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he gives us the purpose of self-cultivation as the purpose for education. And when we think about what cultivation is in terms of gardening, that is bringing forth what is buried within and then using it for a particular purpose. So when we cultivate a garden, for instance, there are seeds that are planted in there and we expect a return. Sometimes I know I've actually had this experience of looking in my backyard and actually noticing some things growing and that were actually producing some fruit. And so with education, that's the purpose of it. Every single human being has gifts and talents buried within them. And true education is one that should uncover those gifts, ones that should allow us as learners to look within self and find the treasures that are buried within that we can utilize for the good of ourselves, our families, our community, our people, and humanity.
Yes, ma'am. Now, how can education and the knowledge of self bring students closer to fulfilling their purpose of being?
Well, it's, when you have that knowledge of self and you have self-discovery, you may not even had known that you are inclined to a particular thing until you have been exposed to it, right? So when education allows us to be exposed to different things, we begin to learn about ourselves. Once we learn about ourselves, that in itself will bring up questions in our minds as to our purpose. And then that will get us closer as we begin to see what we like, as we begin to discover, have this wonderful and beautiful self-discovery and begin matching it up with the things that we're learning. Then we will be able to get closer to and eventually actually land on what it is that is our purpose.
Yes, ma'am. Now, in America's public school system, testing is one of the tools that is used to determine whether a student has gained knowledge. Should more emphasis be placed on how well students apply knowledge and the cultivation of their gifts and talents?
Well, that makes sense to because students and honestly can just learn a set of information for the purpose of answering questions on a test.
Mhm.
So we may be able to remember all sorts of facts, definitions and whatnot, and be able to regurgitate that back on a test.
Right.
But if we look at our conditions, it's like if you find someone who may be full of knowledge, what do you call it? Like trivial
Mhm.
knowledge,
Yes.
and but they may not have a lifestyle that reflects all that they have in their mind.
Mhm.
So it's more than just learning things just to have them in our mind and to be able to say it back, 2 plus 2, oh, that's 4. But if you don't
Mhm.
understand how to use 2 plus 2 to produce for yourself, for your family to gain some benefits from your knowledge, then that's really not, to me, that wouldn't be considered a great test. Some people are able to do it, and then some people just simply have, test fright. But I
Mhm.
think a better means of measuring that knowledge is what you are able to do with it, what you are able to produce with it. Then that shows that you really understand and that you really gained and internalized that knowledge.
Yes, ma'am. Now, Dr. Harold Stevenson, who was a professor of psychology at the University of Michigan, conducted a comparison study of American and East Asian youth, tracing educational deficiencies of America's youth to cultural materialism. Has America's traditional education system restricted our youth from realizing the possibilities of all that they can achieve?
Absolutely. Because when you're not connected personally to what you are learning, if you are just disconnected and you think you're learning a body of knowledge that has nothing to do with you, then how do you see yourself in that? You don't see yourself in that. You don't make that connection to achievement in the knowledge that you're learning. So yeah, this world's educational system has definitely cut us off, and particularly anybody who is non-white.
Mhm.
Within this system, you get an excellent indoctrination into white supremacy, black, brown, yellow inferiority. You get that really strongly within this educational system, so it doesn't leave us a lot of room except for um, how to weave through and survive
Mhm.
in that type of environment as opposed to really thriving as the people of God that we are.
Yes. And that's a great point. Can our own Black schools help eliminate these educational deficiencies and improve the educational and just overall outcomes of our youth?
Yes, but it would have to be done with a true education. Because just being black does not mean that you're going to teach the right things. We have to come out of the mindset and the construct that we were born in America, that is constantly around us. So we have to come into that truth. We have to understand the teachings that have been given to us that really frees our minds from the way this enemy has taught us to think. And so, with doing that, if we are creating schools that have a curriculum that reflect those who are the students, that connect the students to the learning, that connect the students to the knowledge of God, to the knowledge of self, to the knowledge of the time, to the knowledge of the enemy, and an education that also teaches the true histories of all people, then we can break out of this box and we can have that true education that is limitless.
Right. Now, how can Black educators, those who have taken the step to try and counter some of the white supremacy that we receive in our education these days. How can our Black educators promote the importance of service to self, or service to family or community, to the nation and to the world?
So I think if we make the connection and we bridge the gap between those who are actually doing the service, show the examples of those in our culture and other cultures that are actually going beyond just receiving education for material gain, but actually connecting back to the community, utilizing what we have for the good of humanity. There are people who do that. And so if those people can be highlighted, if that can be weaved throughout the curriculum, then I think we're going to begin to turn the minds of the youth to be able to, or to begin thinking about education in light of, okay, how can I utilize this as I'm learning about myself and connecting to what I'm learning in these books? How can I utilize this to cure this disease, to, stave off homelessness, to do something for the good of humanity and not just my personal self, but not to the exclusion of self.
Right. Good point. Now, with Black History Month being underway, and with our understanding that it is so important for us to see ourselves in these spaces, should Black history be studied every month, every day, and not only by Black people, but by white people and others as well?
Yes. And especially if anybody who want this country to survive, then we must study truth. It is so important for everyone to understand that all people come from Black people. We are the original people. And how did that whole evolution of everyone else come about? That is so important for everyone to know, because a lot of us have been robbed of the knowledge of self. And so we don't have any pride. We don't get to look to see what our ancestors have done and know that that lies right inside of us, and that we can do that and more and take it to greater heights. So yes, Black history is not something that should just be a month. And I would say a majority, if not every Black school, certainly not in Asiatic minds, is it just something that is even focused on in February. Honestly, every February, I kind of forget that it's Black History Month, because Black history is just every day.
Speaking of Asiatic minds, what is new and what's going on at the Asiatic Minds online school?
Well, we have just formed great news. Just formed a partnership with NNVnews, and we now have Asiatic Minds Media Group. So that is a group of students who are interested in broadcasting. They are being mentored and guided by those who are in broadcasting, and they will be putting together a segment for NNVnews that will air once a month, and that will be starting very soon. So we are so very excited for this partnership and are so grateful for it.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Sister Sherrie, as always, it is a pleasure to speak with you every week. We look forward to speaking with you again next week. But before you go, please let us know what got you to this point.
Most certainly, it is the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I thank him, and his family for their great sacrifice that allows me to be sitting here today and to have anything of value to discuss. And also thank you, NNVnews.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sister Sherrie. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Coming up, Global View contributor Brian E. Muhammad joins us to celebrate the enstoolment of our brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad as Development Chief in Ghana, West Africa. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNVnews, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Akili Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad, International Representative of the Nation of Islam, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was recently installed as a development chief in Ghana, West Africa. Joining us with an update is NNV Global View contributor Brian E. Muhammad, Final Call News staff writer. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, Sister Rosalind.
Yes, sir. Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad, International Representative of the Nation of Islam, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was recently installed as a development chief in Ghana, West Africa. What does enstoolment consist of?
Well, it is it's an honor for one, it's an appointment for two, and it is a great responsibility. Traditionally in Africa, even though you have modern governments throughout Africa, but traditionally those who administered the needs of the people were actually paramount chiefs and other chiefs that work under paramount chiefs. And Brother Akbar was given the responsibility as a development chief, and who is responsible for the development of a particular area, the development of the people in that area. And that's basically what it entails. It's an appointment of responsibility of service to the people.
Now, how did this nomination for such a major distinction come about?
Well, there's a brilliant sister, the former ambassador to the United States from the African Union. She's a medical doctor in Tennessee, Dr. Arakana Chirambaro Quo. And she was, I would say, critical in, nominating him to those respected in authority among the chieftaincy in the area that he became a chief. She recommended him because of his longevity of work on the African continent and on behalf of our people.
Okay. Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad has been actively engaged in Ghana's growth and development for some years now. Can you tell us about the work he's done and is doing to unite Black people?
Brother Akbar has been doing the work of Africa for a long time. I mean, he has facilitated so many people. I mean, I have a long list of entertainers, everyone from the late Isaac Hayes to Dionne Warwick to Jermaine Jackson to you name a lot of people. Public Enemy credits him for opening the door and bringing them to Africa. So he's been making these cultural connections as well as business and economic connections. And he has facilitated for a number of years, I would say thousands of people over the course of years to connect to Africa, which is significant, sister, because, Africa, propaganda-wise, here in America, here in the West, you may not want to go to Africa because you might think that, people are savage and, the stereotypes that they have given. But he has been in the forefront of working to break these barriers down and make these connections.
Now, Brother Brian, what has been the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's vision for Africa?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. And really, in that last question you asked, I should have mentioned that Brother Akbar first went to Ghana in 1989 at the request of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who asked him to open up the first African office of the Nation of Islam. But the minister, his vision has been for United States of Africa on a larger tip. And this economic and connection between our people here and our people on the continent to unite and to come together and to use our skills that we have acquired in our 400 years of sojourn and even bondage, if you will, in the West, and where we can. If we're going to engage Africa, bring these skills where it can serve ourselves and it can serve Africa. So the minister's vision has been a united Africa, and that entails also a united people of Africa, whether we're in the diaspora or we're on the continent.
Now, you did mention that Brother Akbar was credited with opening the first Nation of Islam office in Africa. Is Brother Akbar's current work, helping to facilitate the minister's vision?
Well, yeah, again, the minister was very specific, in terms of what he wanted to do, some of the areas that was important for us to work in, whether it was healthcare, definitely education. In fact, when he said that he wants to build a mosque there, he was emphatic that you're not going to build a mosque unless you build a school. And the school should come first. So these are the kind of things that the minister looked at specifically in terms of the Nation of Islam's work, because our work had to facilitate the restoration of our brothers and sisters on the continent, because beyond popular belief, we're lost in America and in the West. But in another sense, our people are also lost at home on the continent. And so our work of resurrection has to be facilitated. And that's what based on what Brother Akbar has told me and my own experience working with Brother Akbar on the continent, that has been the work.
Yeah. I got you. Now, in your Final Call News article, you quote Brother Akbar with saying, "One of the first projects I'm looking to do is a health clinic." Has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan inspired him to focus on healthcare as well?
Yes. In fact, on land that we have in Ghana, Brother Akbar told me that the minister wanted to make sure there was a health clinic there, a library, and again, going the education piece, a school. And, and so Brother Akbar in his enstoolment, he said that he is going to serve that area as a development chief. He's going to use that position to do those things in that area. So he said that he would use the same vision that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave him in terms of, what to develop and what kind of institutions we should prioritize and do.
Reflecting on the people who have been given this honor of enstoolment, has that been something that was given to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Yes, in fact, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but when after the Million Man March, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went on a World Friendship Tour. This would have been his second World Friendship Tour. And while he was traveling in Africa, they threw what they call a Durbar, which is a big cultural kind of celebration in Nigeria. They threw this Durbar, and it was at that time that he was enstooled in a part of Nigeria. And not only was he enstooled, but they enstooled Mother Khadija Farrakhan as well as a queen mother in this area. So this is something that many people have been so honored, but it's very significant, and and it's something that when you have that honor, you should continue to do the work that got you that honor. And really, when we talk about the minister, we talk about Brother Akbar, it was their service in real time over the years that they're still engaged in now that allowed them to be so honored.
Yes, sir. And Brother Brian, does Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad's enstoolment hold even greater significance given the areas he's responsible for?
Yeah, the area, the land area, or the village, if you will, is up in the central region of Ghana, which also is near what they call Cape Coast as well as Elmina. And in Cape Coast and Elmina are the slave dungeons, those dungeons that our people went through before being hoarded onto slave ships to be brought to America. And the slave makers never intended for us to return. They went through that door of no return, which is located at the slave dungeons. But by Brother Akbar being a son of Africa, reared and born in the West, and to return now and being bestowed such a position, it is very significant, because that door of no return actually has now been reversed to a door of return, but not in our crazy minds that we lost in our 400 years, but people in their right minds, like our brother, who can serve based on what he has been given by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so with that, Sister Rosalind, one more thing, that honor becomes personal to him, but it is also a testimony to the Nation of Islam and the longevity of work of the Nation of Islam, which was the catalyst for which he served his whole public life.
Yes, sir. And finally, Brother Brian, can you tell us about Wakanda One, City of Return?
Yes. Dr. Quo, her work in Africa, if in that same area where Brother Akbar was enstooled, they issued about 5,000 acres of land for development. And she plans to build this city, this futuristic city. And it's not just going to be in Ghana, it's going to be in certain capitals across the continent, but it's beginning in Ghana. And she's pulling together all of the greatest minds that we have from all over the world. It's a catalyst for Black people to return home, because right now, most Black professionals are suffering in their respective careers, having to struggle with racism, having to struggle with glass ceiling and whatnot, but they can go there and work out what God has given them as talents and thrive and be themselves and be back home again, which was never intended to happen for us to return back home. And I would say this just to add to that. Remember what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. See, we're not just relegated to North America, the Caribbean, and even Africa. We own all 196,940,000 square miles of this earth. So if we want to go back home and thrive, we can do that. And it's open for us to do now.
Brother Brian, as always, thank you so much for your insight on the Global View Report. We look forward to speaking with you again next week.
Thank you, Sister Rosalind.
Yes, sir. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Afterward, we explore ways to care for our bodies at home before we need to see a doctor with our medical contributor, Dr. Akili Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNVnews.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
The pandemic has forced multiple doctors to choose sides in the polarizing atmosphere of vaccine mandates. In turn, the pandemic has forced patients to choose the doctors they trust carefully. All of this has caused confusion and disarray in America's medical industry, making it more important than ever to be aware of our state of health before seeing a doctor. Today, Dr. Akili Muhammad joins us to give us more insight on this topic. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. Thank you, sir. Now, Dr. Akili, since it's pre-existing comorbidities that cause COVID-19 and its variants to be so deadly, what ways can we fight to lessen the diseases some of us already have in our bodies?
I think that is a thought that's generally in the medical ideology of this country and probably the world, but I don't think that is as accurate as the words may make people think. this virus is a little stronger and it has a hardship on the body that's been different than the viruses that we've seen over the years. So if you have comorbidities, it's like, having your hands full of, let's say, groceries coming out of the car and bringing it into the house, and you have 2 or 3 bags in your hand, and then somebody throws something on top of that, which you already have, and it overwhelms you. That's what's happening with this infection. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. And when you're struggling with medical problems already, it kind of becomes overwhelming. And that's why a lot of people that have comorbidities are succumbing. But at the same time, we've been in this pandemic, based on some people's estimates, it's coming up on 2 years. 2 years is a lot of time to have concentrated, dedicated yourself, and make some sacrifices to improve or actually eliminate some of these medical problems. In the book, How to Eat to Live, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he says that you can solve chronic problems. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. So we literally have been in this pandemic for 2 years, and it's time for people, I think, to look at this reality as a wake-up call and start to make sense of how they got in the situation that they're in, meaning those medical problems. And let's not have an unrealistic ideology, which the medical industry is in, right? You're 40 years old, you're 50 years old, you develop this problem after not taking care of yourself as well as even you should have. And then you go to a doctor and they give you a pill to solve a problem that manifested over 30, 40, 50 years. That just doesn't make common sense. And so we have to start working hard and doing some of the things that you should do for your health and get to it.
Yes, sir. Are there foods that can strengthen parts of your body that are more likely to be affected by a COVID infection or its symptoms?
Yes, there are. There are foods, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentions in his book, he gives us a list of foods that are best for the body. Those 3 top would be navy beans, whole milk, and wheat bread. And of course, you have to do your diligence to know how to pick those and pick the best of those foods. But he said all fruits virtually were good for us. And I would just add in 2022 that a good fruit that he's talking about would have seeds in them, because a fruit without seeds has been manipulated. And then there are specific vegetables that he suggested. These are the type of foods that we should be eating, but also take into consideration that one of the greatest points from How to Eat to Live that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is mentioning to us is that we must have long periods of time in between eating. The more you eat, the more you wear out the body. The more you eat, it doesn't necessarily mean improvement of health. But when you eat good foods and you give your body some time to digest it, absorb it, and then to put it where it needs to go, and then give the body some time to regulate that, that's usually much better for your health than thinking that you have to take so much of nutrition in, thinking that overwhelming the body with a lot of nutrition is what gives good health. It's the way that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that is proving to be the best way to improve your health.
Yes, sir. Now, if we think we may be experiencing symptoms, is there anything we can do at home to treat ourselves before we get up to go to a doctor?
Yes, my first suggestion would be, if you're an adult, you should fast. As soon as you develop symptoms, don't go eat. Let your body rest, let your body work, let your body use the nutrition that's already in it to try to fight this thing. And then again, I have to mention this again because there's so much misinformation in the public. Do not bring down your fever as an adult. If you're a child, it's a different reality. But as an adult, you should not try to stop your fever. That's what's killing the virus. You shouldn't try to stop your nose from running. That's cleansing yourself. You shouldn't try to stop some of the symptoms that we develop, because that's the body's way of fighting. And so make sure that you're hydrated. Maybe get some fruit juice, some organic, fresh squeezed fruit juice, and use that to help keep your body hydrated, to maybe put some vitamin C and other things in your body. But eating is another burden on the body, and you're already having one with this infection. So give your body some time to do the things that it's made to do, allow it to fight, and get yourself some rest. And most importantly, when you start developing symptoms, please don't go out into the public. Stay at home, do what it is that you need to do to take care of yourself. Make sure you stay away from people at least for 10 days. And that way you will give yourself an opportunity to get back to a good place before you come around other people.
Thank you, Dr. Akili. At what point should we decide to see a doctor?
Well, in the current state that we're in, that's a very difficult question to answer. I would not be comfortable telling anybody to go to the hospitals in some of the conditions that I'm hearing that people are being treated like when they go there. So the best thing to do, again, is to do the best you can to prevent this from happening. And then to do everything you can to support your body fighting it at home. If you are healthy now, my suggestion would be start working on finding a doctor. If you think you're going to wind up needing one, you should do that when you're healthy, not when you're sick. When you're sick, you're desperate, you're afraid, you're very vulnerable. That's not a good time to try to find a good doctor. You have to find a good doctor when you're doing well, when you have the ability to think clear, when you have the ability to ask questions, which every person should ask. You should not walk into a doctor's office and use some emotional decision to choose them, like they look good or practice looks nice. You heard, they have a nice office and a nice upscale place. Those aren't reasons to choose a doctor. You should choose a doctor if somebody else told you they had a good experience. And then in addition to that, meet them in person and ask them some important questions that your life is based on, such as, I'm not interested in vaccines. So how would you take care of me if I am against vaccines and don't want them in my body? If you get a negative response, that's not a place that you need to stay. You have to continue your search until you find somebody that can meet you where you need to be. You are in control. Your insurance or your dollar is paying this person. So they shouldn't be dictating to you. It should be the other way around. And we have to understand that and stay in control when we're in the desire to find somebody that's supposed to help in such an important aspect of our life.
Yes, sir. Now, Dr. Akili, you've spoken on these topics before, even on this show. And on top of that, How to Eat to Live has been available to our people, to everyone, for decades. Yet the health condition of our people is still in such a bad place, as made apparent by this pandemic. Is there anything you would say to those watching to help them or to encourage them to do more than just listen, but to try and implement the knowledge that they gain about caring for themselves?
Yes, my message to Black people in general, because most of us claim that we know God and we have a relationship with God, whether you say God is Jesus, Jehovah, Allah, whatever the name is that you use. When you go into the books that you claim as your book, look at what is happening in just about every story from every prophet. They came, they gave information, and the majority of people considered them crazy, insane, just not connecting with the people. And so you have people that wind up having severe consequences because they didn't listen to the man and or the woman of God. And so I think that would be the message that I would give to my people today, is how can you say that you truly have a connection with God when God in every dispensation has brought some knowledge, and it includes health knowledge, and we're still in a horrible health condition. So that proves beyond what our words say that we're disconnected from God. Because if we really look at those who follow God specifically, they usually have pretty good health. They usually live for long periods of time. And 60, 70, 80, 90 years is not a long period of time. That's a short life. And so that would be my suggestion. And if anybody does take heed from something that I would say get the book, How to Eat to Live, book 1 and book 2. Start reading it, start applying it. And if you do that, if you get the book and you start reading it and you're applying it as you're reading it, within 2 to 3 weeks, you will be absolutely sure that you found something that is giving you more results than anything you've done before in your life. And if that is not enough credence to go on, then I guess my words won't help.
Yes, sir. Dr. Akili, the Ultimate Wellness Group, what do you have in store for our viewers this week?
Well, this evening we will be talking about one of those comorbidities, and the one that has a tendency to make most people very concerned during this pandemic and in sicknesses in general, and that is diabetes. I'm going to go through diabetes this evening, talk about how we develop it, what organs are involved, the long-term consequences, and then specifically talk about why viral bacterial infections are so hard on the body when a person has uncontrolled diabetes, and what people can do based on the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live, where he said you don't need medicine to control diabetes. And I know that may be very difficult for some people who have diabetes to actually wrap their minds around. But believe me, I understand, because I was a physician that didn't believe it when I first read it as well. But come and join us tonight, the Ultimate Wellness Group, at blackstream.live/TUWG. And we will have an excellent conversation so that you can leave with some news that you can use.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Akili, as always, for your medical insight and contribution. We look forward to speaking with you again next week.
Thank you, and I look forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNVnews, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks with National Network View News. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.